Hello, and welcome to the Brooklyn Rails 166th New Social Environment. I'm Emily, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for the 12th Radical Poetry reading, curated by Edwin Torres. Every Wednesday leading up to the election, a guest curator has been inviting a number of poets who they admire to the NSE to read political poetry, and we are continuing the series now into the future. We are so thrilled today to have poets Xandria Phillips, Odaiwan Noel, Stacy Szymaszek, Tongo Eisen-Martin, and Cecilia Vicuna here with us today. The Brooklyn Rail acknowledges that we are on the unceded territory of the Lenni Lenape, Canarsie, Shinnecock, and Munsee peoples. We acknowledge the many indigenous nations with ties to this land, and we recognize that the Lenape still call Mannahatta home. Finally, the Brooklyn Rail stands in solidarity with the uprisings that continue to unfold across the country following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Nina Pop, David McAdie, James Scurlock, Jamel Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, Rhea Milton, Dominique Remy Fells, Toyin Salau, Walter Wallace Jr., among countless others, and in response to generations of structural violence against Black communities. Black Lives Matter, and we will continue to support ongoing action in the struggle for racial justice. Before I introduce our curator, we'd like to begin with a brief moment of silence. Thank you. And now to introduce today's curator. Edwin Torres is the author of several books of poetry, including The Animal's Perception of Earth, forthcoming from Double Cross Press, the editor of the intergenre anthology The Body in Language from Counterpath Press, and has taught and performed his multidisciplinary body lingo poetics worldwide. Edwin, over to you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Fong and Anselm, for inviting me to curate this today's reading. There's sort of too much to say and not enough. I'm so thrilled to have the readers join me today. I'm going to do this in sort of two sections. I'm going to start my set instead of waiting till the end. So my set will be about 8 to 10 minutes. And then I want to have the readers follow each other. So I'll just start. I have an introduction and then two poems. And thank you all for joining in. I'm looking at alignment and how the ecosystem we poeticize as poets within grows stronger when the roots connect to a system outside, a system we don't always understand. I look at Gertrude Stein, her poem, A Long Dress, which goes, what is the current that makes machinery, that makes it crackle? What is the current that presents a long line and a necessary waste? What is this current? What is the wind? What is it? Where is the serene length? It is there, and a dark place is not a dark place. Only a white and red are black. Only a yellow and green are blue. A pink is scarlet. A bow is every color. A line distinguishes it. A line just distinguishes it. I look at Vladimir Klitnikov, the Russian futurist poet who wrote Incantation by Laughter, among many works, where the word laughter evolves into sense beyond non, into wisdom. Of the speed and mobility in futurist poetry, Klitnikov wrote, if we think of the soul as split between the government of intellect and a stormy population of feelings, then incantations and beyond sense language are appeals over the head of the government, straight to the population of feelings. I look at revolution through an interior lens to see if change has a perception, a viewpoint where I can approach how change happens in the world, in language, in me. What perceptions am I bringing to the world, the one I've made of myself, if I lay my discoveries over each other as a mortal coil, through my population of feelings, through my government of intellect, through the society I am, through the dress I wear for the world to see. I look at principles of perception, of new discoveries moving forward while discovering the old in history. So as we go forward in time, our perception of the world is broadened in both directions. While we're in our day, what part of our day will we choose to discover that broadens that day for us? From an essay entitled The Foreigner's Home, Toni Morrison writes, "There is an inside-outside blur that can enshrine frontiers and borders, real, metaphorical, and psychological, as we wrestle with definitions of nationalism, citizenship, race, ideology, and the so-called clash of cultures in our search to belong. I look at the overlaying of time as a continuum in aggregate form, the moments we're given as poets, built over each of every poet's lifetime, deepened in each of every poet, our here, our before, to immense ourselves in a depth made richer with every alignment presented, every perceived obstacle. Our warriors for revolution are many. I look at the poetry that appears in the world when the world is ready, how the world knows before we do, and how every layered action is a scar of its time, an imprint in isolation, as we search in our many directional radicalities for a perception that might connect with our own change, our own directional emotional belonging. The angles of our many deliveries crossed, stacked in our time. I look at the full moon, a blue hunter's moon on Halloween, Samhain, the time of the year where the spirit and human barrier is thinnest. The states flipped from blue to red, the Madagascar chameleon, sighted recently. 100 years was its previous sighting. Imagine living that long out of sight. History illuminates the alchemy of our imperfections, in the alchemy of our revolutions. I look at the moments interstressed by leaders calling for followers, and what we do to follow that calling, as listener, as warrior, stacked, overlaid, played with, against each other. Our vocalities are calling. Our readers today, Xandria, Urayoa, Stacy, Tongo, Cecilia. Our listeners today, you, are calling, not just today. We share to see what to make of decision, of imagination, where to direct questions into change, where we move from revolution to revolution, today's, tomorrow's, last year's, it's all one revolution. These are not new thoughts. It's just a new day. This poem is by an infamous New Yorican poet, Mike Tyler. There's a lot about Mike that I could say. But one thing I'll say is that he once couldn't get into the cafe, so he climbed on a chain link fence and exorcised his poem. In the process, he fell and broke his arm. And he wrote about that. This is called Suggestion Box by Mike Tyler. I am not a suggestion box. I am not made of wood. I do not have a slot. I do not have on me the words suggestion box. So stop giving me suggestions. If you didn't move around so much, I could listen to your poetry. If I didn't move around so much, you wouldn't even bother with you couldn't listen to my poetry. You just wouldn't listen to my poetry. You are immoral if you are not a suggestion box. I am not a suggestion box. I am not made of wood. I do not have a slot. I do not have on me the words suggestion box. I cannot be immoral just by being. So stop suggesting that. Advice is good. This has been a century of advice. And how have we done? We've got a sick earth and hungry people, and you can't walk down a street without somebody spitting. I say advice is bad. But isn't that advice? No, that is poem stuff. A poem is not advice. A poem is telling you something you already know. Advice is telling you something you wish you'd never even heard. Well, I still like to make this one little... No, don't even say it. There's no such thing as a little one word or 9 billion pages. It is advice. It is bad. I am not a suggestion box. I am not made of wood. I do not have a slot. I do not have on me the words suggestion box. You've got a closed mind. A mind is not a deli. A mind is not a windowed place. It does not have specials. It does not have hours of business. It cannot be open or closed. Isn't there a good communication that provides benefit? You've just talked art and some of love, but that gunk's so welcome it gets over before it starts out. A suggestion always comes with suggestion thugs, suggesting that suggestion is a good thing. A good thing sometimes needs force. Wrong. Keep your knife, spoon, and its Puritan medicine tied with dust rats to my grandfather's clock, the talking which is stopping more and more. I am not a suggestion box. I am not made of wood. I do not have a slot. I do not have on me the words suggestion box. I'm a humane being. I expect to be loved, not scolded. Thank you, Mike. Okay. So this poem is called My Facial, My Cilial, My Mask. My masks are made of the chosen minority. My masks are made of unsocial diaspora. My masks are made of democracy crockpot. My masks are made of banana poo-poo. My masks are made of pardon my trigger, pardon my bullet, pardon I jumped the gun. I'm a Yoruba-based archaeologist, just graduated from prison for time served defacing society's blind spot. Here with the new position, order in the next mycelia, and we'll throw in this mail-in corpse circa 2200 strike that, 2020 strike that, 1103 gone. My masks are made with treaties torn off bodies of interruption, pardon. My body's interruption, pardon. My interruption is your day. I'm a lifelong missionary for Instagag. My masks are made of skin, bronze from the backwoods of annihilation, sewn on the 7 sails of washed away deferment, with the inched patterns of centurion ships from galaxies harvested on dreamt of balconies, harboring imagistic leaders born of singed opportunity, breathable yet suffocacious around your fleshy parts. The parts you believe in, the parts you feel at night. Got blood on your hands, got red, got hot, got stink on your hands. Order in the next 30 nucleics, and we'll throw in utopic entrails hypnotized by wanton fulfillment, lured by fires ravaged on the shores of cloven change. Order before pandemic Sunday will throw in cataclysmic patterns climbed over weather worlds and ornate imperfections. We'll throw in derelicted class structures now listed, now you're just listing, now you're just listing, now you're just listing stories, just listening, now you're just listing for something to hear, something to say, now your torrential gust, now your ravaged fires, now your people, now your mission makes an entrance. Now you have something to get at. Now something comes to you. Now the poem starts. After listing incomparable excuse of syntax for morality. Now in the beginning of the side-by-side tectonic. After bestilient myth. Before selfie display. Your wrecked incarceration of the body. Of the fearsome apology you always wanted. Pardon my journalism. Pardon my polypoesis. Now you're in it. For synapse to more sequential carnivory, peer transparence, now you cannibalize the language for entry. What happens to the giver once the comfort of the giving is gone? What happens to the wrenched apart apathy once now is gone? What happens to the drive for this text from the mighty almighty eluded, the summoned totems, the shoulders I stand on, the hands holding me steady? The appearance of my shakable foundation in this mask. Order now and your listening will root foundation, formation, interstitial tendril for summation, the shun words, the steady shunned affirmations of where travel gives me lead. Lodestar, knifed, effervescential logarithm. My masks they're made of 100% star fields, constructed of interruption, 100% interruption, my star field, intelligence, my doing, with interruption every day. I am interrupted from morality every damn day. In the field of my ancestors, my listening, now you're listening, now you're ancestors, now you're my ancestors. Palms out, palms burned, bruised, overlanding what we walk on. Every day our blind spots shine brighter, our fingers brighter, our glass dulls ancestry, obliterates the handheld galaxies we offer our lives to, in patterns of synchronous ecology. My masks are made from 100% synchronicity. Look, 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 in the next 40 lines, I'm listening, answer me, I'm listening. I list of synchronous mistakes, I'm a list of asynchronous mistakes, astinctual extapedipant, sound out the chorus of your misspelling. Mold, extumbrace, impulvent, sound out your mistaken, inducing purification. Mastered over cycles interference, fostered interference, adopted traumas are my location. These masks are made of location, my era, located by carbon flirtation. My filtered upbringing, rerouted by something you can wear around your head, something that wears you back, that feels you. Our body locates interruption to feel its recording. Check out my feel recordings. Echo that spirit, that spill recording with 100% orality. Order now, time is running. There are 2 minutes left to this poem. My mask, a new life for the unencumbered. Decumber your expectancy. Order 1,100 at a time. I am Yoruba-based Latin ecstasy, hawking my vibe on the side of a road of your choice. Newly released from itinerant robes, ethnic obliteration is my karma today. My masks are made from books I'll never be, poems I haven't written, sewn with inherited threads, perceptual affirmations for paralysis. I've never breathed, diseases I've never had, people I've never killed by breathing on them. Look, listen, mine are the ones to get, minds are the ones to order, made from the poet gaze, a Rorschach for inclusivity. See me, through it, see you. Code switch, easily canonized. Did I say how they fit around the tongue, how they strap across faith and lesion, how hypocrisy is a weighted fissure looking for purity at the tip of the ear holes? Here, listen, sapped of nowhere, the listen is godless. Here, I am letting you go. Order now before we're both. I've just seen ahead of what's holding me back. You, before you're gone, holding me back. You, what I share with my mask, is what I'm looking for, the troubled eclipse of my fortitude unraveling here in my mask. Does that perplexity for a cosmic ever field count as wisdom or sanity? Look, those that will be quick to call me done or embattled by my insight can now be rendered, be ordered, be yours in the next 9 lines. A Yoruba-based paleo spirit, I graduated from blooded apparitions. In the next 7 lines, my masks are made of spirits, indifferent to perception. My heart interrupts the body's insistent approval. You, phantasm here, bloomed by separation, bloomed by desperation. Only seasons are made of get. Our layered ambivalence, systemic in the seams of my mask, row upon row, where I don't know what I'm finding, but what I'm looking for. Okay. I needed to get that out. All right. They're on sale too. No, I had to do that. Thank you all. Now the reading part 2. I'm very happy to have everybody join me. I'm so glad that you're all there and that we have today to buffer whatever our time is like. Anyway, no more talking about that. Our first reader is Xandria Phillips. The full bios are in the chat. I'm just reading a short excerpt of everybody. Xandria Phillips is a writer, abstract artist, and educator from rural Ohio and the recipient of the Judith A. Markowitz Award for Emerging Writers. Their book, Hull, also received a Lambda Literary Award. Xandria, over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for opening us up, Edwin. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, thank you. It's my first Zoom reading in a little bit. I took a little hiatus. I'm really glad to be back with y'all. Oh, hi, Johnny Lou. I really thought it apt to open the space, or at least open, my portion with a poem by Audre Lorde. So I was scouring this, and there's so many good options. And I really discovered some of my past selves a little bit, just as I first picked this up in 2013 and just how much has changed. So this poem by Audre Lorde I'm going to read is called Who Said It Was Simple? There are too many roots to the tree of anger that sometimes the branches shatter before they bear. Sitting in netics, the women rally before they march, discussing the problematic girls they hire to make them free. An almost white counterman passes a waiting brother to serve them first, and the ladies neither notice nor reject the slighter pleasures of their slavery. But I, who am bound by my mirror as well as my bed, see causes in color as well as sex, and sit here wondering which me will survive all these liberations. Yeah, thank you. So I'm actually doing what I hope is kind of like a world premiere. That's like a joke, but it's of some work that I haven't really had a chance to share very much. So I'm really excited to share it with you all. I think it's in line a bit with what we're talking about, just a bit more fantasist. I actually am going to read some two poems from my next book, which is dealing with Blackness on television. So these are some ekphrastic poems centered around, these two poems are centered around The Watchmen, which, or Watchmen, I guess, the television show, which for me, the more I look at the Fifth Cavalry, the more it feels a bit more real. But I'm hoping you'll still enjoy it, even if you're not an avid fan of the show. But that's just a little background. I'll also read a couple poems from my book haul. This first poem I'll read is called Black Heroism is Unskilled Labor. Angela makes sure the right people die at the funeral. The grandchild of the Tulsa massacre, her skin is artifice, a call to dream so nothing occurs. When her white colleague detonates a suicide bomber, she blocks the blast with a casket. It is common knowledge that womanism does feminism's housekeeping. Much as one might travel, one guilt trips, in this case to reconstruction era fantasy. Did I mention that everyone is a cop and still someone is trying to tell a story about justice? Quiet as it's kept, take something from the black box and a little black ekes out further into the ethos. But these stories don't need to matter, they're made from it. I find no proxy here in iconography, genomes ache. Okonkwo hangs himself in the end, says Angela, spoiling the end of Things Fall Apart. Angela won't die at the end, I say, spoiling yet another thing. And this next piece is called You're Not Supposed to Take Somebody Else's Nostalgia. Will tells his wife he is not angry despite involuntary flashbacks. Black bodies affixed with rope to the bumpers of cars. He is the child of the Tulsa massacre, everywhere massacre transposing present. He becomes a cop, so they beat him out of uniform. He becomes a vigilante, so they fuck him into submission. Dominique calls me the patron saint of split screen, consuming as I create. A black pansy craze resurgence, and a Trent Reznor bass line to make me horny, as one considers oneself lucky to be gussied at all. The work becomes increasingly difficult with enjoyment. The gag is, We've been living in each other's bodies this whole time. Stay with me now. We only have a single take to get this shot. Two men drag us by the legs towards a leafless tree. They throw a noose around our neck, string us up by the throat, and cut us back down as a warning. We flee the scene only to intercept an act of white on white crime. And then we all come home to Will's wife and admit that we are angry. So those are my Watchmen poems. You know, if you hated them, that's cool. You know, maybe you won't like the show, or maybe you just hated it, but you like the show. Either way, I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, if you have any. I'm gonna read two poems from Hall that I think might feel a bit more applicable, maybe to, I hope that this might feed or stoke anger if people are feeling it. I don't really have any peaceful poems. I don't know. This one is called I Never Used to Write About Birds. I never used to write about birds falling out of the sky. I must have had freedom and lost it in my rush to pick through the ambrosia, bone, and crust the divine throw down to us when the sun betrays their secret luminous banquet. When gold dust collects in their feather threads against the cusp of dusk, the birds fall from flight, design forsaken, and punctuate the surface of Lake Michigan. Waves rush, filling the broken compromise between flight and matter. Every nerve I own is swelling to golden hours haze and plummet litany. It's time to glow up in praise of the stars, burning gainless, and the sun tracing clouds in Renaissance oil paint. Praise where the sky cracks open to its interior, the backlit ozone. This is the closest I'll get to grabbing our unjust God by the pearls strung across his throat so I can ask why he sat back in luster all these millennia watching my people die. Just checking my time really quick. Okay, I have one more piece to share with y'all, and I just wanted to thank you for listening. And also thank you for the feedback people are giving me. It's super helpful. Like, it's a workshop and a reading, so thanks. And thank you, Edwin, for inviting me. And thank you to all the readers I have yet to hear, but anticipate very greatly. This last poem is called The Master's Tools, so circling back to Audre Lorde a bit. I hold this temporary sweetness in my mouth, a small wedge lopped off the mother melon, still tethered to the grove. Watermelon is a social fruit with many heads to a single spine. Watermelon is a social fruit. I press its meat to your waterbed mouth. In your eyes, I see the tool shed on fire. We won't need the spades, the anvil heavy as a blue whale's heart. You kiss me, and the fruit look like swollen bodies in a chain gang. You kiss me so deep, I might never leave the fields I've been leashed to. We bear no laborers to wither with this empire. Our instruments of desire chafe a blue flame, the thicket swelling with us to ash. We're not here to dismantle anything. We've come to burn the big house down. Thank you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Xandria. Wow. Yeah, that house, that big house. I hear you. Beautiful. This is what we need for today. Our next reader is Odaiwan Noel. And again, Odaiwan's full bio will be in the chat. Briefly, Urayoa Noel is a Puerto Rican poet, performer, translator, and critic living in the Bronx. He has published 7 books of poetry and has been a finalist for the National Translation Award and the Best Translated Book Award for his translations of Latin American poetry. And I've known him for a while. I'm glad he can join us. Odaiwan, you're on.
Gracias, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Chévere. Cinquains, cinquienes. Anti-imperial leer. Animal canto era. Decolonial verse solo. Anti-imperial leer. Animal canto era. Decolonial verse solo. Primer. Interior fresco. Mar no vital sauce. Taller solar cultivar. Do come. Primer interior. Fresco mar, ¿no? Vital sauce. Taller solar. Cultivar. Do come. Paces. Habitable arena. Transversal me. He. Tornado. Revolver. Terror. Pases. Habitable arena transversal. Me he tornado. Revolver. Terror. Rival? No. Red Atlas. Relieve grave sin? Alas. Tender, radical, disparate seas. Surge. Rival? No. Red. Atlas. Relieve grave, sin alas. Tender, radical, disparate seas. ¡Surge! This is from the Puerto Rican poet Nicole Cecilia Delgado. Antisocial democracia. Necesitamos saber vivir un jueves cualquiera a la sombra de un almendro, leer libros y escribir poemas, o empezar a pensar más coherentemente en cómo puede o cómo debe gobernarse un país ahora que el Estado no se hace responsable de nada. Antisocial democracy. We need to know how to live any old Thursday under the shade of an almond tree, to read books and write poems, or to start thinking more coherently about how a country can and should be governed now that the state is not accountable for anything. And I'm gonna give a shout out. We lost many elder poets from Puerto Rico in the past few months. I'm gonna give a shout out to one of them, Esteban Valdez. This is from his classic book, Fuera de Trabajo, kind of the bridge between Fluxus and concrete poetry in Puerto Rico. Didn't get published till 1977, but was doing work since the mid 60s. And so I've shared the link so you can follow me, because this will be a little show and tell. I didn't want to share my screen. I want you to be able to curate your personal experience. So page 30, if you want to follow me. Peace in the world, paz en el mundo. Conspira, conspire in peace in the world, paz en el mundo. Monumental elegy for the pain of two different beings. Peace in the world, paz en el mundo. Conspira, conspire in peace in the world, paz en el mundo. Puerto Rico for the Puerto smiling, peace in the world, paz en el mundo. Esteban Valdés, presente. Okay, folks, so definitely check out the book. It was actually reissued recently, which is what I'm reading from the 2020 reissue. And hope his work gets the love that it deserves. Definir el poema que no se codifica en hilos de sentidos y se nos multiplica. Su olor de azares traspasa la gris mica de la forma perdida, o bien se momifica. We define the poem time never codifies into threads of meaning, and so it multiplies. Its random aroma oozes past the gray skies of a forgotten form, or else it mummifies. Lenguajes naturales que corren el programa del cuerpo regulado, por donde se derrama aquel ritmo insular del pitirre sin rama. ¿A qué mar nos condenan? Quemar lo que se aman. Natural languages still program our bodies in regulated rhymes born of uncertainties, the insular rhythm of sparrows without trees, waters we must wade in, we burn in our own seas. Voy por los malecones de tu órbita en ruina, verde, marrón, matojo, abasto de la usina solar, hijo del cielo, hecho de plasticina tan milenaria y cruel, mutis que vaticina. I walk along the piers of your orbit in shards, full of greenish brown shrubs, stock of solar shipyards. I'm the son of the sky, last of the Play-Doh bards. This cruel and ancient play, this silence that regards. La informática lluvia en desierto boreal marca coordenadas del cuerpo digital, conjuga lo imposible, verbo condicional, digital como el dedo, con ansias de dedal. The downpour of data in these boreal sands maps the coordinates of our digital lands in possible verb tense, our bodies and their brands, digital like fingers who never knew their hands. Aquestas son las playas que en los videojuegos se prueban de avatares, de olas y hasta luegos, acumulando vidas como desasosiegos. Deja que la pantalla revele sus pliegos. These here are the beaches where all the video games are rife with avatars of waves the night misnames, accumulating lives like disquieting shames. Let the screen capture all our ghost mainframes in flames. La realidad viste esa prenda virtual del aire que se escapa y el mar de luz marcial, 100 horas en deshora, hay un flujo global, la pulsión calabozo del palacio animal. Reality now wears a virtual garment in seas of martial light. We lived here when war meant our outlaw bodies dead, until time's disbarment set our barrack drives loose like empire's last varmint. ¿Cómo desamarrar el avatar de sesos para que sangre ecos de luz por los pescuezos en las grandes pantallas, superávit de huesos, 1000 islas reversibles en convertibles pesos? How do we unfasten our avatar of wills so that it burbles blood in half-light through the gills, splattering giant screens, bones crown empires, landfills, reversible islands on convertible bills? Luz irrecuperable, archivo que comprime los instantes e insta la marea a que rime, roca con red y risco. Si el ruido nos redime, basta que nos arrase, nos bese, nos lastime. Irreplaceable light, sound file that compresses each and every hour, marking the tide stresses. Rock rhymes with reed and ridge, the sonic abscesses in our minds' recesses, wounds the dark sea blesses. En la muerte del signo hay códigos que nacen, sabores que nos sobran, pulsiones que subyacen. Dejemos que universos inhóspitos nos tracen, murmullos de criaturas rumiando el almacén. In the death of the sign, a new code always thrives. All that we know, plus underlying drives. Inhospitable words contain our afterlives. Warehouse in warped space-time, a new species survives. Quererte es naufragar en islas pixeladas, con ciudades adentro en descuentos de hadas. Toditas las palabras serán deletreadas en las arenas negras del sueño tras las gradas. To love you is to drown in pixelated aisles with cities deep inside full of rusted turnstiles, where words go round and round, becoming the stockpiles of black sand in our dream that stretches on for miles. Son transversales siempre las significaciones. Es un cliché decir que yo soy mis relaciones. Más bien somos dos ratas trepando zafacones en el antropoceno sin imaginaciones. There's a transversal ghost in the self's foundations. It's a cliché to say we're webs of relations. I'd say we're two old rats storming trash can nations in the Anthropocene's gnawed imaginations. Me trepas y te trepo, me montas y te monto por el tiempo que dure, por lo bajo y lo pronto, como feliz bacteria cruzando su helesponto de piel a la intemperie con carita de tonto. You ride me, I ride you, I climb you, you climb me, for as long as it lasts, with our hands all grimy, our hearts somehow intact, our minds a bit slimy. I like you how you are, no need to untie me. Me montas y te monto, me trepas y te trepo, me dices al oído lo extraño que te sepo. Durante la tormenta ya no sé dónde quepo, me agarro de la muerte, tu árbol de quenepo. I climb you, you climb me, you ride me, I ride you. You say I taste funny, so sweet when I tried you. Now the storm swallows us, I feel lost inside you. So I hold on to death, it's my turn to guide you. Terminan los lenguajes, queda lo que transcribo. Esa incomodidad de sentirse aún vivo. Criatura del bosque, sin vas suelo nativo. Máquinas cocidas, compradas sin recibos. Languages of an S, leaving what I transcribe, that terrible malaise of feeling half alive. A forest creature dies, no native soil or tribe. The ecocide machines compress our diatribe. Islotes descosidos, desconocido flujo, En la austeridad, el orgasmo es un lujo, la caricia un conjuro y la rima un embrujo. Me vengo de mi suerte, en ti me desdibujo. Unraveled island thoughts flow from an unknown sea. Orgasms are a must under austerity. Caress means knotted lust. Rhyme is an augury. I come to know myself in your dark apogee. And that's the end of the line for me. But I can't leave without some kind of improvisation using the techniques of the trade. And so let me try this and put some megaphones in my tirade. Edwin, you've always been about amplifying the voices of poets. I won't say Latinx poets because it was a bad night for Latinidad, but maybe it's a good time for poets. Let's make the language that we need de los cuerpos que nos quedan presentes en la mente que no se lamenta, que miente solo en cuanto falsifica la herramienta de la voz, y te lo digo because se siente como un momento para la poesía más feroz. Negociemos esa todo posibilidad. Hagamos viable otro tipo de lenguaje, otro tipo de vivencia, no super. Dejémonos ya de la supervivencia. No survival narratives, please. Let's think about un chiste compartido, a shared joke, a shared joint, getting each other off, getting offline, going offline for a while, salirse del internet, salirse con la suya, poéticas prófugas de la salida. Siempre hay salida. La poesía es la salida. Poetry is the only nation. Gracias.
Vaya. There may not be Latinidad, but there's poetidad. Poetidad. Poetiudad. Fabulous. How many toys do you have there to play with? Anyway. Poets have toys in their heads, always. Thank you, Urayoa. Fantastic. Our next reader is Stacy Szymaszek. Stacy is the author of several books. Again, her full bio will be in the chat. Is the author of several books of poetry, including Other Journals, which won the Odaiwan Prize from Fence Books. She's received the Foundation for Contemporary Arts grant in poetry, and her next book, Famous Hermits, will be released in 2021. Stacy, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. I'm so happy to be reading on this day in this Radical Poet Company. I'm going to begin by sharing excerpts from two poet peers whose work really guides me in the fight against racial capitalism and other evils and toward claiming autonomy in this time. Sadly, neither of them are with us in body anymore. So inviting them into the room. First one is Akilah Oliver from the Putterer's Notebook. I disrupt my imaginary. My marketable language receives you, tattered one. Is this ending good, to be unknown, to be broken, to be sentry, to be just, to be good, earth? I've been back, been back many times, been back here. This body, a public adornment to speak of in relation to scale.
Sorry, Stacy, your sound went off. If we can, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, did you hear anything?
The beginning, only for the
We
last.
heard the beginning, Stacy. Yeah.
Did you hear any of the poem?
Aquila's poem, yes.
Okay. The body, a public adornment.
Yes.
You heard that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. In the charlatan's close, I collect epigraphs to mark this form as urgent, sinking, replicable and twisting like nightmares seeking solitude, nostalgic in post-colonial light. I am not seeking more than an indicant of our love that broken umbilicus left ungrounded for so many refused seasons, a bargaining chip between us. And the second excerpt is from Sean Bonney's Our Death. Every day, I wake up every day inside the wage system, inside all its houses, never paid rent on even one. Sleep nowhere. Every morning inside my wages, I lie in wait for those who sleep. I sleep. On their chests and never speak, never. Take this as spectral evidence, meaning, fuck death. Now I'm going to read from a long poem I wrote a year ago. I finished it in December, called Famous Hermits. And I have read from it publicly only once, so grateful for this opportunity. And I really like, in all of my work, I tend to use phrases from other poets in the work. So what you will hear in the following pages are phrases from Pragita Sharma, Bob Kaufman, Sean Bonney, and Diane DePrima. Man at farmer's market. We accept wood tokens as money and we give sawdust for change. Elder woman at post office. 1905. Sounds like a bad year. I escape the bind of good and evil when there are nights that don't ever happen, knee deep in gems, ferns, reptilian life, well-being in an egg. I don't carry the fantasy of the unbearable you, ultraviolet light. Here we are, specious connections of a politician, issued at the rate of 13 per day, seeping into the language arts. Say homelessness causes water pollution, a wall is beautiful, or a womb can move freely, an animal inside an animal. Murder of crows, a gaggle of geese, a crew of hustlers. How to lay low in day glow, in blood boil. I don't want to be pained, so I think, hey, I'm like a punk who made a splash. I'm a punk who was a flash. I'm a punk, I have a pan. Each energumen has a soft-spoken enabler. They care more about you than for you, the person you, the thing you, occupying a sociological space where your art never resolves the problems of your personhood. The regime is friendly to your art. If you didn't think cacti were beings before, sick allegorical minds plowed down. A girl scaled a replica of the wall in about a minute. The sound was displaced in my adulthood, boys playing football. I listened aggressively, painfully close, a trigger for cinematic flashback to a time when I drew plays on the palm of my hand, staving off everything I had to become. In city, after city, after city, after having left the most elite of them, I better understood my nature. The train runs on a schedule less transparent than church bells, audible from any point I've rested my head in this town, my body clock unwittingly geared to it in honor of she who took me to a ranch behind the Waffle House and reset me. I left my orange peels in a line, and we, looking like a fabled couple, counted backward. I too have said things other than what I meant, adding to the farcical proceedings of the collective. The terror of the poet was certain, palpable in equal to $0, and may have moved 0 hearts. What is amazing? Express your desire to be forgotten as a person, yet still do your 24/7. Listen to the music of centuries rising above mushroom time. A mouse gnawing at the back of the stove woke me. You think this is the way it is now. Mouse, this too shall pass. I saw the half-acre dirt yard as a perfect site for a series, so set up a camera and tried to capture myself the way I am, the way I was and the way I want to be, recognized, a slightly misaligned being, releasing soul, new pink sodium vapor bulbs under dark sky ordinance, strings of lights on cacti unrelated to holiday in a socially impossible milieu. I threw style to the hot wind. I saw the astronomy with my naked eye. November, fire in paradise, super, typhoon, Yolanda, German activists send Trump a piece of Berlin Wall. Where are places on the edge of disaster and high taxes that have X, Y, and Z? What to do with all of this wool? I have played with fat and perhaps this time in mid-journey lost. Where are places beyond the purview of God-led leaders? Lest we be smart as octopi, making daring escapes. It can take 700 years to when pigs fly in the air with their tails forward to be pardoned. Your murder may never be solved when pigs fly in the air with their tails forward, and it won't even be called a cold case. Thugs convene daily in public parks loaded with technology of the era. Let's weaponize blank, i.e. infuse everything with the sweet smell of death drive. It can be a rose bush, a kiosk. It can be a nonprofit invisibly steering your movement. Early morning half dream. I blew the dust skulls off of a book of desirable poems in a box of desirable books. Somewhere else, a book is waiting. I drove through the red dust without knowing the time, past a group of women who marched toward the same sundown. Oh, it's eternity. The problem eternally being laws on my body. Make space with buoyance. You and your lover will always be swept into what people think. Upthrust your word choice. What they think you think based on their mishandling. Hold the space for your lover, a babe in the lake, 3 bodies of water, part of the sky. You are not Chicken Little. You and your lover masquerade as mild people, and no one ever asks you what you think. Friends nor creepazoids. A scene appeared on my forearm in the form of a sleeve, the ink asking for my visual intelligence, a green, leafy limb, fueled by desire in the trunk. Today, I may qualify for Medicaid, unable to predict any income for 2020. I talked to 4 people at one store about the whereabouts of an electric kettle. The seller's market, suburban. Ancient aquifers are dropping. The diurnal freight train puts me in a less personal mood than the nocturnal freight train. But it's all conveyance, commerce, sped up to tear up human bodies. Hex the owners, shriek one time. The words become something horned. Outside barricade. Our details don't matter. That's what they take. Clearly, I do things that are wrong. A story is what I will never give anyone. Nonlinearity is my protection. A line of automated fire. Wrong place, wrong time. Don't lady me. November got noisy with people, the colder days, the dimmer light. The citrus is ripe. 2/4 of a squeezed lime lay in the dirt. An endless Sunday night party, men in white trucks, or that is the form in which they appear to me. Speed down the partition as we spin further from the light. As we spin further from the light. That is Diane de Prima. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stacy. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Edwin.
How poetry provides, how it gives us spaces. It's what I mentioned in my intro about everywhere at the same time, broadening our day and broadening our time, how poetry allows for that space to happen. Thank you, Stacy. That's very beautiful. Okay. Whew. Our next reader is Tongo Eisen-Martin, and again, full bio will be in the chat. Tongo is a force, so I'll keep my bio, my intro real short, and he will be who he is. Tongo Eisen-Martin is a poet, movement worker, and educator. His latest curriculum on extrajudicial killing of Black people, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. Tongo, over to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody. I would like to first say happy birthday, Mom. The freedom fighter, yeah, just the responsible for every thought in my head. Beautiful. I want to start with a poem by Q.R. Hand Jr. This poem's called Jonestown. So you listen. You keep one ear to the wind, the wind you hide your face from. You are Van Gogh, slowly drawing pictures of soft blades, lopping off concrete pigments, one by one, close to 1,000 times. In the inner ear, you hear falling. Slowly, you look down, softly, making sure your feet are still there. The other ear hears a trampling protest. Again, happy birthday, Orlean Eisen. I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative. All over the United States, there are toddlers in the rock. I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket and why blood agreements mean a lot and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history or take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm. Ricochet sewage near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In the kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. House of God in part, no cops in part, my body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from the old bullets. Pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark. Extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration, the waistband before the next protest poster. Hey, by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your desk for last. You're witty, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It is only raining one thing. Non-white cops and prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill, a neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise, a new lake for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder, the figment of village, a new noose to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president. They bought slavers some time, didn't he? The tantric screeches of military boats and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons, proof that some white people have actually fondled nooses. That sundown couples made their vows of love over opaque peach plastic and boat action audiences. You know, the Medgar Evers II is definitely my favorite law sign. Fondle news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialisms. Simple policing versus structural frenzies. Elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums. Artless bleeding and the challenge of watching civilians think. And terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm gonna go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads and the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans of war, well, with their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt, and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus, I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. I'm off to make a church bell out of a bank window. Kitchens meant more to the masses back in the day. Before that, we had no enemy. And somewhere in America, the prison bus is running on time. You won't lose your job before a revolution hits. Somewhere I won't be home for breakfast. Everyone out here now knows my name, and I won't be turned against for at least 4 months. The cop in the picket line is a hardworking rookie. The sign in my hands getting more and more laughs. It says, the picket line got cops in it. Now I can take care of those windows for if you want, but someone else got to go inside your gas tank. It was clear to me that rich people had talked too much this year. Why don't you go ahead and throw down that marble park bench everyone's looking up at you, know, get the Romans out of your mind. And maybe a good night's sleep would have changed the last 20 years of my life playing the instruments like punching the wall. What would you have me do? Replace the population? Give brotherhood back to the winter? Stop smoking cigarettes with the barely dead? You know, they listen in on the Sabbath. Police called the police on me. There was a white candlestick beneath my detention. I ruined the soup again, thought the judge, as he took off his pilgrim robe behind the white people's door and more. I didn't get lucky. I got what was coming to me, he told. Say, fight me back, the man said. Of course, to himself, washing windows with a will to live. Tin can on his left shoulder, enjoying the bright, brand new blight with all party goers, both supernatural and supernaturally down there. What is this elevator? Traveling side to side? Like 1,000 bitter Polaroid pictures that you actually try to eat. All the furniture on this street nailed to the cement, cheap furniture, but we have commitment. This morning, an essay opens the conversation between enemies. Why? Because you control every grain of processed sugar between here and the poor man's border. Because in the tin can on my left shoulder, I can hear the engines of deindustrialization. You should get in a painting, you know. Tell lies more deeply. Hey, this month I'm rooting for the traitor. Carting cement to my pillow, here we will build. I'm high again, not talking much. Hey, why don't you climb up the organ pipe to our apartment floor? I'm high again. Calling everything church, sing along to a courtyard thing, to a horn player's holy pastime. Yeah, I'm just putting a real jacket on it and talk about a real 5 years. Hey, keep memories like these in the pocket next to the toll receipt. That man lost a wager with the God of good causes. I mean, stood up for himself a little too late. Shit, maybe too early. I can still see 20 angles of his jaw zigzagging through the cold world of deindustrialization. There's an art to it. I will tell my closest friends one day, you know, apparently too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place. Hey, this dream requires more condemned Africans, or put another way, state violence rises down, or still life is just getting warmed up, or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions, or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. This is the worst downtown yet. And I've borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback phase. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me, threw it at the first bus I saw eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line number, then on out the front of the White House. Say, hopefully you find comfort downtown, but if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. A special species of handshake. Let's all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. This coffin needs to quit acting like those are birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings, have no voice other than that of a white world dying. There are book pages in the gas pump. Catchy, isn't it? The way 3 nooses is the rule. or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes, or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean only to find waves made in the 1920s, burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. Red flowers, but what's the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Book titles like Hero, You Make a Better Zero, or Hey Fur Coat Lady, the President is Dead, or Pay Me Back in Children, or They Hung Up Their Bodies in Their Own Museums, and other book titles pulled from a drum solo. Run here, hero, lied to hiding place. All the bullets in 10 precincts know where to go. There's no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means that people did it and people do it. Understand that when in San Francisco and other places that was never really there. I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. And it's just 60th Mission Street. All know who's king. King of thin things, you know. Like America, I'm proud to deserve to die. I'm gonna eat my dinner extra slow tonight in this police state candy dispenser you all call a neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind a murderer's insomnia or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police sirens. When a drummer is present, they are God. I'm not an I am a Black Commons. I'm writing my new tattoo out on bus station glass, making tattoos all afternoon, trying to talk myself into seeing a decade through. Man, I must really be the devil's front man. Staying at an empty bus that I imagine in fact carries paintings of people. And a man drunk behind the wheel has to choose between a black and white toddler after school in America on a California street that doesn't need a name, North California. No one on the street has a job and therefore no one is there. I colored my oppressor's gun and dance floor for him in the same day. The joke began. The walker on the bus seats is fine by me as long as I get to the front. The joke concluded. And Tuesday is rotten soup, a downhill entertainment, a commotion in the ashtray, the day that jail quarters get filled, or the day that the planet plays flat and maybe a capitalist sets stadium seats on fire and causes economic progress. Communists got plenty of time to finish their cigarette and lie to their boss. A killer lying down in front of a tank. I have a small statue built in my chest and also an anchor upside down in the air. Worried about the walls, I forgot that the ceiling was closing in on me too. That's my take on my alcoholism. I'm hunched over a meal I ate 5 years ago. It's my take on the look on my face. Cursed God a little, took another step up the staircase, and for a second, I forgot all occupants of the world, beginning with this house. I'm an action hero of one street proportion. You know, rap music is the way to count blessings. The 80s were better than this fiction. I have a piece of fence messed through my skull. I'll be half-eaten my entire life, always walking beside myself with a gun in my head and another one pointed at passersby, and it's like, half of me, all of you walking in and out of myself. But I'm always happy to see you with a miraculous route you took through my threat. Honest pay, a knife in my arm. Honest pay in my chest, a broken lock on the monument. Tell you the truth, I forget what my hands look like, what I did with them, or what kind of third eye the handcuffs cut into my wrist. I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket. A penny that's yet to be invented. They say, you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. You know, playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things that interrupt me while I'm trying to dream. Like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy. I mean, windows to the South. I'll walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country I murdered? Merge with us, Lord. Our old metal versus new metal. Our old metal versus a pool of meandering imperialist faces, a multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. A song about a song, a hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered poet. Hey, my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles, watch people play for post-working class associative surfaces or recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class art of utility, playing find a sociopathic bureaucrat, a day some white people scare even easier, TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby, wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny, fantasizing through the art of the poor, their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog, and hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm gonna die in the war. Unelected white people in my small house like a blues song of no spiritual effect, a dollhouse H-bomb, a pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, a chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use, made in the image of God's trinkets, what white abolitionists confided in their children about, chemical assurances that they will switch from black artist to white artist, from black guy to white guy, from black worker to white worker. I think about you cautiously, Lord. In the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planter's field to a priest. King Sugar Cane, King Cotton King Revolutionary, the Ballad Central, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planter class, speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers later. You know, a priest took my mother lightly, Lord. Stood in front of parishioners, re-raveling fantasies about black art, priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. You know, after the day, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They leave rifles on sheltered walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one, to keep nothing godlike, to write a poem for God. I appreciate y'all. Happy birthday, Ma.
Thank you, Tongo. Happy birthday, Ma. Oh, wow. Let's let that simmer a little bit. Beautiful music, feels. Thank you, Tongo. Our last reader of this fantastic day is Cecilia Vicuna. Very happy to have her close for us here. I've known Cecilia for many years. Again, her bio will be in the chat. Okay. Cecilia Vicuna is a poet, artist, filmmaker, and activist. She is appointed the Messenger Lecturer at Cornell University, an honor bestowed on authors who contribute to the evolution of civilization for the special purpose of raising the moral standard of our political, business, and social life. Thank you, Cecilia, for being here. You're on.
The earth wants its blue, its thin blue line protecting it from death. Earlier in the day, it seemed like the blue had a chance. I have no idea if the blue has any chance left. It seemed that people across the US were choosing the red of fire, of fossil fuel, to kill the blue atmosphere that feeds us. For those people dreaming of hatred, dreaming of the red swallowing the earth, for them we sing, we sing, we sing. I had imagined showing a little video of a word poem I wrote in 1974. Before before all of you were born. And this became a flag that flew at the border in Texas, Marfathon. It said, que despierte la verdad, and this word verdad, which sometimes means truth, in real means give sight. And this giving of sight was caressing the wind. I feel now the betrayal of the dream of the kids crossing the border. By all those who dream of continuing the enslavement of the babies, the enslaving of all colors, the enslaving nation. Hearing you all, I felt there was no need to show any video of any flag, because all of you are the real poets, the real poetry of this land. Each one of your poems singing, que despierte la verdad, let the truth of our pain to awake. Edwin asked that we should bring a poem, and I wanted to bring a poem from this book. This is a book I did in 1997. Actually, I did it earlier, but that's when it came out. And it's called Ul. Ul in Mapudungun, the language of the first peoples of Chile, means poem, song. And I think to this day is the only trilingual anthology of the poetry of the Mapudungun poets. In the prologue I wrote in 1996, it says, perhaps the ultimate meaning of the cultural renaissance now being brought about by the Native American political and artistic movements is that it completes, transforms the image we have of ourselves and our land. The earth, perhaps, is a blue syllable, echoing the vowel in U. The wooing call, the spirit associated with the color blue. The power of the color blue, according to the Mapuche poets, is that it doesn't exist. It is nowhere, therefore we dream of the blueness. The earth dreams its own blueness. And some of those blue claiming carriers don't even know what blue really means. Cacique Curiwing said these words words. All the earth is one soul. Our souls cannot die. Yes, they can change, but they cannot be extinguished. That is why perhaps the police in Chile, in Mapuche lands, continues to kill the kids. Thinking of our failure, I wanted to read to you an ancient poem I forgot to read the poem from Elikura Shiwalaf, the poet I wanted to read to you. I was paying homage to the matrix, to the spirit soul, where he comes from, which is the collective oral ancient tradition that is very much alive in the Mapuche territory that overlaps Chile and Argentina. It is the old women who are the shamans, the machis, the ones who speak the impossible sounds, the ones that heal with their song. So Elikura Shiwalaf, a young Mapuche poet at the time we published this book, has now been called the first indigenous poet of Chile to receive the National Literature Prize. This just happened maybe a couple of months ago. And this is perhaps aligned, I don't know, you probably know that the first indigenous foreign minister of the world has just been named in New Zealand. So this rising of Native American thinking is happening despite the killing, the massacres that are happening everywhere. So Elikura, this is his voice. Los poderes del agua me llevan. Viejo estoy y desde un árbol en flor oteo el horizonte. ¿Cuántos aires anduve? No lo sé, desde el otro lado del mar, el sol que se entra me envía ya sus mensajeras y a encontrarme iré con mis abuelos. Azul es el lugar a donde vamos, los poderes del agua me llevan paso a paso. Le flou es apenas un pequeño círculo en el universo. En este sueño me quedo, remen, remeros, en silencio me voy en el canto invisible de la vida. And here is the translation by John Beerhurst of that poem. The spirits of the water carry me off. I'm old, I'm from a tree in flower, I scan the horizon. Where have I been? I do not know. From the far side of the ocean, the setting sun has already sent out its messengers. And when they reach me, I will go to my ancestors. Blue is the place where we're going, step by step. The spirits of the water carry me off. When you lay your food, is scarcely one small circle of the universe. I dwell in this dream. Stroke, oarsmen, in silence I move away in the invisible song of life. And I have to say, when I read this poem this morning, thinking of our reading, that command that we should stroke some more, reminded me of a huge strike that took place a few years ago in Bolivia. And the people are rising, and the police is coming to them to massacre. And they're demanding free access to water because the government intended to privatize water, very much like it has been done already in Chile. It was done by the dictatorship. So you have to know these stories to know where the poem is coming from when he says, stroke, oarsman. And so the people are terrified in front of the police, and suddenly one of them shouts at full heart, acabémonos pues, meaning let's be killed. And the whole of the people charge along with him. And the police doesn't know what to do with this mass of men, women, children rushing towards them, not away from them. In that moment, the police is disarmed, and the people of Bolivia got the right to have free access to water. So that is what is behind these poems that seem so sweet, so soft, so nothing upon nothing. Is my time done?
Do you wanna end with a little more, or do you feel that you're at a point?
Perhaps I could do 2 more little pieces.
Sure.
And talking about this, you see, I did the opposite of all of you. I brought in old things. It must be because of my oldness. And perhaps to contrast with all of you who read these amazing poems that really feel like the moment is speaking what we're going through right now. So today is another anniversary, November 4th, of the moment when the people of Chile had elected Salvador Allende to be the president of Chile, the first socialist to be democratically elected in the world as far as I know. On November 4th, 1970, it was, how you call when you receive the office of the presidency. So today, the Chileans who remember this are celebrating that. So thinking of that moment when it was possible for a people to democratically elect justice for all, justice achieved through democratic means, as the opposite of what we are seeing around the world, even though we don't have yet the results. We have read. I wrote this poem in 1971, a year after Allende was in power. So first in español. Te propongo hacer un viaje alrededor del mundo, acreditados como misión investigadora del gobierno socialista. Tú y yo seremos los besadores. Besamos mejor que nadie, habiendo desarrollado una técnica minuciosa y altamente estudiada de cómo besar más todos perfectamente. Ni mujer que bese como yo, ni hombre que bese como tú. Los besadores besaremos a todas las personas que encontremos. ¿Quién sabe hacerlo mejor para descubrir quién sabe hacerlo mejor y aprender, por tanto, su técnica para practicarla y enseguida traerla a nuestro país socialista, que será el país de los besadores. Now that silly poem had one virtue, which is that it was censored and never published in Chile. And because it was never published in Chile, perhaps a few years ago, I would say perhaps around 5 years, perhaps, the young high school students that were rising the revolution in Chile decided to come up with this event where they would gather by the thousands and they could kiss each other and kiss everyone around them as a form of new kind of protest that paralyzed the police because they did not want to be kissed like real wet kiss. So these kids to this day have never seen this poem, perhaps, but no matter, because the poems have a way to go under the earth and rise with the dreams of those who dream. In English, and this will be the last research project, I propose to take a trip around the world to be officially designated socialist government research project. You and I will be the kissers. We kiss better than anyone, having developed a meticulous, carefully researched method for perfecting the kiss. There's no woman who kisses like me, and no man who kisses like you. The kissers will kiss every person we meet to determine who does it better and learn accordingly from their technique. We'll practice it and without delay bring it back to our socialist country, which will be the land of the kissers. 1971, translated by Rosa Alcalá. Gracias, amigos. Ciao.
Thank you, Cecilia. How beautiful to end with kissing. Go out there today, kiss your red, kiss your blue, kiss yourselves while you're at it. Thank you so much for just attending and actually for affirming poetry's landscape and poetry's ability to just, be who we are. All of you, thank you so much. Xandria, Urayoa, Stacy, Tongo, and Cecilia. And thank you, Fong and Brooklyn Rail, for having us here. I turn it over. Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you, Tongo. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Urayoa. Thank you, Xandria, all for such incredible readings. Thank you, Edwin, for bringing everyone together today. What a beautiful Zoom. This October marks the Rail's 20th anniversary, and we are committed to remaining independent, free, and accessible to all. And thank you also to everyone who tuned in today. Please join us tomorrow for the 10th installment of Common Ground, a conversation on the Black Art Library in Detroit featuring founder Ozma Walton with Alexis Assam and Jasmine Weber. And you all should now have the ability to activate your microphones and say goodbye as you leave. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Cecilia.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thanks, Cecilia.
Great poem, Tongo.
Thank you.
Great work, Edwin. Loved it. Thank you, Xandria.
Thank you,
Thank you so much, Cecilia. Thanks, Stacy.
Yes.
You guys, thank you.
Great job, Emily.
I needed this.
Great job.
Thank you for this fire.
Yes,
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Yeah, really. This was fantastic.
Beautiful, beautiful reading.
Oh man, I'm ready to go. I'm ready. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Fong.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Thank you, Fong.
Thank you. So much courage and love. I feel so
Really.
alive. So alive.
It was needed. It was needed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was so great today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
That was amazing.
Public poetry.
Edwin.
Woo!
Tongo.
Yeah, I totally agree with JC. Great curating, Edwin. Great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You're so inspired. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this again on YouTube. It's going to be just thrilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Tongo,
you.
this was the first time I ever heard you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Much love.
Yeah, same for me, Tongo. Really
Surreal.
impressed by that performance.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for doing this, Edwin. A beautiful curation,
Thank
indeed.
you. Thank you.
You're so powerful right now.
Great. Everybody's
Thank
tight.
you.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, hang in there, you guys. Hang in there. I feel incredible optimism. I leave with you with this amazing Chinese proverb. This is our hope. It's say, when the changes of the wind blow, some people are building walls and others are building windmills. I think we're good.
Oh,
Thank you, Fong.
Now, much love, you guys.
Thank you.
Month, all right? Love you all. Grazie mille. Ciao.
Thank you all.
Thank you.